Guys, we had many Mascot Horror games, even ones inspired by old cartoons like My Friendly Neighborhood, and Man the Adventure, and even a new one coming up called Pepper the Big Purple Dog. I want to talk about a Mascot Horror game that had popularity for a week, then was quickly forgotten. This game is called Mint Hints. If you're confused what Mint Hints is a Mascot Horror game from 2024, heavily inspired by Blue's Clues. You play as one of the old showrunners of the show. You came back to the set to see what happened and why the show was mysteriously cancelled. In this game, you will see tons of unique characters that fit the game perfectly, similar to an old kid's cartoon. While this is a horror game, later on you do see it's not all cracked up it's to be. Chapter 1 starts with old footage of the show, introducing our first character, Grant. He's one of the characters that will be important throughout the whole game, as he is the host. Along with the tape, we are also introduced to Mint and Fuchsia, who are primarily the faces of the game. As soon as the footage ends, we are immediately put into the game. I will say it is weird that we pop in without any setup. Usually I prefer some sort of setup when we are going through these type of games. But it is going to be common with the other chapters as well. 1 minute in, we meet our first side character that helps us progress through the game, Muffin. With the way this game is going, it is going to be very linear later on. While we meet other characters similar to Muffin, the game relies on dark humor. While some parts do make you chuckle a bit, I will not lie, it does feel a bit forced. I mean, there's literally a character named Knifey, covered in blood, gloating about how many people they stabbed. And a toaster talk about how he does not want to go in a bathtub. As I'm aware this is a horror game, 5 minutes in, we don't get a good job at getting paced. After we are done meeting all the characters in the chapter, we finally reach the gritty part of the game with the 2 core mechanics. We are given a flashlight, not to see in the dark, but to find hidden objects within the chapter. As this chapter implies, Mint Hints gives us clues to find out what happened in the game. This helps give us lore as well as progress, which I think is a clever way of doing things. Instead of finding secrets the hard way, we discover lore by progressing through the game. While fighting the 3 specific hints, we also find a hidden character with the flashlight named Sawi. Sawi is a character that fills out a place until you see what happened. From us revealing the lore throughout the hints, we finally get one piece of the answer. We find out what happened to Mint. She was murdered by producers using Sawi as the weapon. This is where the game starts to move into the horror section, with Muffin being kidnapped mysteriously by an unknown force. Then we get a call from someone on the phone, and it gives us a second flashlight. It uses the same mechanic but find different colored material, which helps us find a key to the basement. As we head down there, we hear someone eating, and this is where we meet Fuchsia. Fleeing from the half-eaten muffin, Fuchsia can only be seen when activating the flashlight along with invisible objects with the same color. Same with the blue light. I think this covers a simple mechanic because it adds tension to the game. However, as we travel forward downward, we reach the best part of the game, which had me on edge. If you remember chase scenes from Poppy Playtime, where they rely on trial and error, this is kind of the same thing but simpler. You have to run away from Fuchsia while Mint appears right in front of you. While running, you go through different corridors as they try to block your path. It took me a couple tries to do it, but it wasn't a long chase scene, so it wasn't hard or frustrating. Eventually, we may end up in an elevator, and when we reach the end, we get a massive plot twist. We see a giant robot Mint. With chapter 1 being out, this game was good. It had a lot of things going for it. It had some art shown by developers. You could tell this game was made with passion rather than pure profit. It was a game that I enjoyed. I was ready for chapter 2 immediately. While not all the jokes landed with the humor side of things, the horror was definitely there, and I think it made it halfway to being a good Mascot Horror game. The chapter starts with a VHS footage of the show, starring Grant, Mint, and Fuchsia, and lo and below, there is even more characters, Cream and Lilac. Then it ends. We are back with the giant robot Mint. She tells you she is a replacement for Mint, just like the others. For lore context, Mint and the others are all dead ghosts haunting the studio. Later, you see that the androids are basically leftovers of the corpses, and possibly others as well. While you are talking to the android Mint, who is strung up, she says she needs your help getting power cores because Mint and the others did this to her. Obviously, the only way to progress through the game is to trust her when you agree to help her, and she leads you to a guy called Fun Guy. Fun Guy is a character I do not like, because this is where the game starts to have a problem. When you first talk to them, he just never stops talking. It feels like you spent around 10 minutes listening to him while doing a simple task to build a machine. This game makes simple things way more complicated than they need to be. For example, Fun Guy gives you a radar similar to the flashlight mechanic from the first game, and you have to find blueprints to build a vacuum cleaner to capture the ghost. My explanation is simple, but the game gives you a long monologue about it. There will be more complaints like this later on. The whole section after the Fun Guy area is basically you finding Mint and the others in a large room using the radar to locate them and hiding in objects. Once you find each one, you unlock a level where you can find the hidden power cores. This part of the game isn't bad. There were moments where it tried to sneak up on me and gave me a little jump. It does take a while to find them, but once you do this, the horror does die down a lot. This is probably the only real horror section in the game. Alright, so with all the ghosts captured, we unlock 4 separate levels. The house, the mall, the farm, and the island. Each one hides a hidden power core in each level and has its own variety. Starting with the house, it surprisingly has some tension and horror atmosphere. It has the same layout as chapter 1 with a few differences like grays and an open field, all the original characters gone, which makes this area feel a bit more airy. While trying to find the power core and almost giving up, it becomes clear that it's not here. The one who has it try to sneak up on you is Android Fuchsia. Not only do we have Android Mint, we also have Fuchsia, which is an android. She tells us not to trust Mint, which is obvious. It's not like we're gonna trust Fuchsia neither. The only way to get the power core she has is to find hidden VHS tapes in other levels. So now we not only need to find power cores, but we also have to find hidden VHS tapes, which just drags this game even more. I'm probably about 30 minutes into the game at this point. After that, we are about to leave and finally meet the best character in this game, Zoe. She's the only one I trust. Peak character right here. She appears briefly telling us to watch ourselves and not to trust anyone. The rest of the other levels, we are introduced to mostly side characters who give us simple tasks to earn power cores. In the mall, you race the character with shopping carts for 3 laps, not boring at all. In the farm, you cut down crop for a scarecrow, because they're too lazy to do themselves. The island is the best part of the 3, featuring a giant obstacle course. I had a lot of fun doing with this one. Now on to the main issue of the game, the hidden VHS tapes. This game has a big problem with lore jumping. It adds 3 extra VHS tapes, plus even more later. At the farm, there are like 6 characters in a maze, all talking about Mint and the producers. I liked the lore, but there was no reason to dump all of this information in one chapter. It does not help that every character is fully voiced. I'm honestly wondering how much budget went into voice acting at this point. After finding all the VHS tapes, we go back to Android Fuchsia, who leads us into a hidden room. We finally come face to face in a room filled with tubes and test chambers. This is probably the first boss fight in the game. Before the fight, we get more lore revealing that our name is Belinda, one of the original showrunners who has been murdered. It turns out that we are also an android. With our ghost wandering the studio, we actually see a glimpse of her earlier, but it was so quick that you might not even notice it. The fight with Fuchsia begins, and we don't have a weapon to defend ourselves. Luckily, Zoe comes in clutch, ready to help us fight. The fight itself isn't the best, it's pretty simple. You lead Fuchsia to pipes, throw the saw at them, and make them explode. It can be frustrating at times, especially when you lose your saw again after losing it. But since it's the first boss fight, I won't be too harsh on the developer as he is still learning the game. After that, we return to Android Mint's area, but she's gone. There's a hatch open underneath, so we go down and find a VHS tape revealing Fun Guy's plan to capture the ghost just to set them free and give them peace. Before the chapter ends, we meet our own ghost face to face, and then everything cuts to black. And after this chapter, the game itself kind of died. I looked everywhere for a sign we might get chapter 3, but all I found was a wishlist mentioned on Steam. After 2 years with no announcement, it makes me think that the game is gone, and from what I've seen, it makes sense. When you look at Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 on Steam and YouTube, a lot of people enjoyed Chapter 1, but barely touched it on Chapter 2. It wasn't picked up by popular YouTubers and didn't get enough advertisement. From what I've seen, there was probably a lot of budget put into voice acting in Chapter 2. There are many things that could have caused a possible cancellation. I still hope for Chapter 3 release and that game continues, but my strong guess is that developer is working on another project that's getting more attention, Imaginary Asylum. If you do want to try out the game and give it some attention, it's on Steam and the first chapter is actually free. This was me talking about Men's Hints, and maybe we still get Chapter 3, but until then, stay tuned for more stuff because I do have something planned after this video, and with all that saying, I'll see you on the flip side.